I have here a box, and inside that box, there are lots of bags. And inside those bags, there are lots of Gundam pieces. And today, I am going to try to make a custom Gundam using only Gundam parts from various Gundams. I start by gathering up a little handful of parts that I think may be helpful and that I may use in this project. Starting with this piece here, which is actually a piece that I've had for quite a long time now, and I've always thought it kind of looked like a torso. And so that's where I'm starting. This will be the torso. Throughout this video, these are the different glues I'll be using depending on what glue it calls for. And this actually isn't the first robot I've made using just Gundam pieces. I actually made this one a while back. You can watch that video here. And it was made using just one box of Gundam accessories. Because this entire project is just made out of Gundam parts, and to save you from hearing me have to say, and I glued this Gundam part to that Gundam part, and then cut up this Gundam part to attach to that Gundam part, I'm going to keep this voiceover a bit more chill and casual. At this point, I've had many of these pieces for a year or two now, and they've all been in these little plastic bags, so I don't know where most of these come from. I just know that they're all Gundam pieces. Also, I do want to say that there are a few tiny little pieces of styrene like these two that I'm using in this, and of course some metal pins to hold things together, but everything else is a Gundam piece. Even these tiny little pieces of plastic I'm putting in the holes are pieces of Gundam accessories that I've cut off. So like I was saying, I don't know where all of these pieces come from, or which kits they come from, or what models they come from. So if you're looking for where a specific piece came from, you can still put it in the comments. I may be able to tell you if I remember specifically, or maybe someone else can answer the question for you. But I apologize for that. I just don't remember where all these pieces are from. Working on this build was actually really nice for a few reasons. One, it's a nice small scale, easy to work with, easy to handle. But the other nice reason is that all of this plastic is the same material, so it's very easy to glue and paint and attach things together and modify things because it's all the same plastic. In this video, it looks like I'm just very easily fitting parts together, but off camera, there's quite a lot of test fitting and shaping and cutting pieces so that they actually fit together properly before you ever see it happen on camera. And every piece of plastic that I cut off during the modification process, I save, because like these few pieces, they were just cut off from other larger pieces, and they work great. So always save your small cutoffs. It's like in the wood shop, you always save every little scrap just in case you may need it one day. Except here, they're plastic and like a millimeter in size, not a nice piece of African rosewood. The head was definitely the easiest part of this build. It came together really easily and only used a few pieces. I really like this shape when it comes to my robot heads, this kind of security camera with a single eye. And if you watch my other videos, you know that many of my videos, especially in the past, I build my robots with one eye. I had actually built another set of antennas before this, and I just didn't like how they looked, so I went back to the drawing board, or in this case, the bucket of Gundam parts, and I built myself a new, more streamlined pair of antennas, and I'm really happy I did because I like these ones much better than the original ones. When it comes to Gundam parts, there's not a whole lot that are long and circular like this one. Many are angular and geometric and bulky, which is really cool looking for Gundams, but I wanted my arms to be a bit more round, so I found this one that kind of looks like a javelin tip, and I'm going to use this for the upper arm. And I'm sure if I searched through the entire catalog of Gundam parts, I could find a lot more, but at least in my selection, there wasn't a whole lot of round arm-shaped pieces. And if you couldn't tell by now, I actually don't know a whole lot about Gundam. I built a few in the past. I really love using their accessory pieces, and I think they're super cool looking, but I don't know a whole lot about the lore, so I apologize if I ever call something by the wrong name, which I definitely have in the past. But I am doing better at trying to find the names of the parts that I'm using. Like later on, I used the beam javelin, which in my head, I was just calling the lollipop spear because it looks like a spear that you stabbed a lollipop with. And even more once I painted it a very nice purple-pink shade. If you're wondering where I get all of my Gundam parts, I get all of mine from my local hobby shop, which is very nice that I have one. I know not everyone is lucky enough to have their local hobby shop, especially in today's age of everything being online. So if you're looking to get into Gundam or just getting some Gundam pieces like I play with, definitely go try to find your local hobby shop and support them before buying them online from Amazon and places like that. The legs on this build were probably one of the more complicated parts, mostly just because there was a lot of pieces that went into it, and I was constantly searching around for the right pieces to fit the right shapes. Plus, since I wanted my custom Gundam thing to have 2 legs, I had to build 2 of them. Luckily, once you build one, the second one is usually a bit easier because you've already built one. I just recently picked up that container of Tamiya ultra thin cement, and this is the first project I'm using it on because it really only works on polystyrene, and I've heard some ABS plastics, but it's made for mostly polystyrene, which is exactly what Gundams are made of. Cement glue like this works really well for projects like this where I know all the plastic is one plastic, polystyrene. It doesn't work so well on my normal trash bots because very often I don't know what plastic these pieces I'm using come from because, well, they're pieces of trash and I don't really know. I can't look it up. And in theory, I could do a small test on the pieces of plastic I use with the cement to see if it works. But so far, the 2 superglues I mainly use, the thin and the thicker superglue, work well. So I'll probably stick with those and then only use the cement when I know for sure that the 2 pieces I'm gluing together are styrene. As I've been rambling on, we are now coming to the end of the main construction, and I can start to glue those little hinges and ball joints together to lock them in place once I figure out the final pose. All of the pieces are done, and I add a few pieces of wire to hold them up during the painting process. I'll add them to some paint sticks and then send them outside for a coat of primer. For painting, I'm going to start with airbrushing. Most of the build is going to be covered in this white base coat, and then I'll do a little bit of gray and pink for the beam javelin. Then the rest is going to be quite a lot of hand painting. I'm using these colors here because they look like a traditional Gundam color, and then a bit of gray and white for the touch-ups. After priming, I did also very carefully split the beam javelin into 2 parts to make painting a bit easier. I'm starting here with the white coat, which doesn't look like anything has happened because it's on a coat of white primer. And I could have just kept it as white primer, but when I'm doing the white primer, I do it over a black base, as you can see here, and so I don't really cover everything completely. I mostly use the black and white because the black does a really good job of covering everything, and then the white is just so you can see it a bit better on camera. For the hot end of the beam javelin, I start with the darker purple pink, and then I use the lighter pink as sort of a highlight to give it a glowing effect. At least that's what I tried to go for. I'm going to be using this classic Gundam here as the color inspiration, especially when it comes to the chest area. I'm going to try to build that mostly with color, and then the rest is just white and gray with a bit of red on the shoes, just like the model on the box. I start with gray and paint a lot of the joints, just like they are on the original model. And all of the paints that I'm using today are paints that I already had in my kit. I know that they sell like Gundam specific colors that match exactly the colors that you see on the box. And those are great, but I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of money on a secondary blue that is just slightly different than the blue that I already had. This project definitely had a lot of hand painting, which I actually enjoy because it's quite therapeutic and I just throw on a podcast or an audiobook and let my mind wander while I paint. But that does mean that it takes quite a lot of time and dedication and a quite steady hand. I probably could have used my airbrush for this entire thing and just masked off certain parts, but because this thing is so small, it would have taken quite a lot of time to mask everything off, and I'm always worried when masking off fresh paint that I'm going to take the masking off and rip off all the paint underneath and have to start from scratch. So to ease my mind, I decided just to hand paint everything. Luckily, with a white base, these colors pop really well and I don't have to do that many layers. Especially with the red, I think I only did about 2 layers of color. The yellow I think was 3 and the blue was also 3. The torso here is where like 85% of the color is, so this took quite a long time. And the rest of the color is just a small amount of red on the shoes and a bit of red and yellow on the head. When I'm doing hand painting like this, I very often use a wet palette. In my case, I use a cold palette, which is basically a frozen ice pack sitting on a plate. And then there's a bathroom tile, like a ceramic tile that you'd find in your bathroom on top of it. And because it's cold, it produces condensation and constantly keeps all of my paints nice and damp so they don't dry out. I want to add a few water decals to this build. These 3 are actual like Bandai Gundam branded decals, and this other one is meant for Gundams, but it's not like official, I guess, but it's meant for them anyways. And now that we are in the decal process of the video, I think it's a great time to give a shout out to my patrons over on my Patreon. Thank you all so much for the support. I know I say it in every video, but it does really mean a lot to me. Your support makes it so that I can buy cool decals like this to cover my trash bots and projects like these that aren't really trash bots, they're more of like a kit bash, but thank you nonetheless. If you're interested in joining these wonderful people, I'll have a link at the end of this video on my page and in the description to my Patreon. If you join the core builders, not only are you directly supporting this channel, but you also get a shout out in every single video, plus a teaser before every build. I'm going to add a bit of detail using this panel liner. And the nice thing about working with Gundam parts is that there are a lot of really nice little panel lines and holes and stuff that I can use this on. This panel liner is a very thin paint or ink, and through the power of capillary action, you add a small amount and it just flows through all of the panel lines. It's a great tool to add a bit of detail, especially in the end steps here. And speaking of the end steps, we are getting into the end steps here. As we finish up this project, I'd like to thank everyone for watching, and I'd like to shamelessly ask you to please like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. If you have any questions, put them down in the comment section. If you want to name this guy or tell me a cool backstory behind it, I would love to hear it. In the past, you guys have come up with some great ideas for these trash bots I usually make. So if you have any ideas for this one, please do let me know down in the comments. Now, normally at this stage, I would start the weathering process using some of these Tamiya Weathering Master kits and some washes. But call me crazy, I'm not actually going to weather this time, which I know is insane if you know me, because I weather every single other project. And the reason I'm not weathering it is because, well, fresh out of the box, these Gundams are not weathered. They're pretty brand new looking. The weathering stage is a great way to cover up all of those happy little accidents. And for me, if I'm not weathering something, I have to really make sure that the paint job is done well so that I don't have to cover up all the mistakes with weathering. And not to toot my own horn or anything, but in this case, I think I did a pretty good job with the paint job. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around till the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that one. It was another fun project here in the shop, and really a fun little self-set challenge here to build an entire robot using just Gundam parts. Which in theory sounds pretty easy, right? Because Gundams are already robots. But I really had to make sure that I wasn't using Gundam parts that are made for the arm as the arm, or the leg as the leg, and so on. And I think in this case, the only part that I actually used as the part were the hands. And maybe the torso as well. I don't know. That thing looks so much like a torso, but maybe it's not. Who knows? Let me know if you know. Anyhow, thank you all so much for watching. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, put them down in the comment section and I will try to get back to you. I do read every single comment and I try to respond if I can. If you're into these scratch-built, trash-built bots, I've got quite a few other videos on my channel, so please do check those out if you've got some time. Another big shout out to my patrons. Again, if you're interested in joining, I'll have links at the end of this video in the description and on my page. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next video.